What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, unfortunately, the news came out a couple of days ago that the franchise quarterback for the Detroit Lions, Matt Stafford, has requested a trade and that he and the Detroit Lions have mutually agreed to part ways, and the Detroit Lions will be trading Matt Stafford. However, the biggest question on everybody's mind is, what is Matt Stafford's value? What are the Lions going to trade him for? How much compensation in draft picks and or in players are the Detroit Lions going to receive for dishing out Matt Stafford to another franchise? Now, in this video, I wanted to go over Matt Stafford's value, talk about some of the more recent big name quarterback trades around the NFL, and then look at some of the teams bidding on him, look at some of the teams that are looking and interested in a Matt Stafford or could be interested in Matt Stafford, and in the end, come to a conclusion what the Lions should be looking for Matt Stafford, and some of the ways that the Lions could increase Matt Stafford's value even after the season's conclusion. Now, before we get into talking about Matt Stafford's value and what the Lions should be looking to get out of Matt Stafford on the open market, if you are new to the channel and are enjoying this Detroit Lions content, please consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. It takes just 2 seconds out of your day to do so, helps the channel out more than you could know, helps the channel out a ton. It's free, it's quick, it's easy, it takes 2 seconds out of your day to do so. So if you could take those 2 seconds to like and subscribe, I'd be incredibly appreciative for it. Both all that being said, and without any further ado, let's get into Matt Stafford's value and what the Lions should be getting for the franchise quarterback. Now, Matt Stafford's value has been a very debated and a very touchy subject around Detroit Lions fans, as a lot of Detroit Lions fans, including myself, believe that Matt Stafford is obviously a very good quarterback, and a lot of Lions fans believe he is worth at least a first-round pick plus additional compensation, whether that be a player or whether that be other later draft picks in a team's particular class. Although a lot of people believe Matt Stafford is worth that kind of value, there are some people out there that believe Matt Stafford's not going to be as valuable on the market. There are people that believe Matt Stafford, at the very most, is worth a third-round pick and maybe a later-round pick after that. So in this video, with the wide range and the wide margin of different areas that people are thinking about for the franchise quarterback in Matt Stafford, I wanted to go over it, look at the recent quarterback trades that have happened in the NFL, and try to come to a conclusion. What should the Lions be looking for? What is fair market value for Matt Stafford, and what would it take for the Lions to actually gain from removing Matt Stafford from the organization? Now, the first quarterback trade that I came across happened in the 2017 offseason as the Minnesota Vikings, after Teddy Bridgewater had an incredibly horrific ACL injury, they traded a first-round pick in 2017 along with a fourth-round pick to the Philadelphia Eagles to receive Sam Bradford. Now, Sam Bradford was not a great quarterback in Minneapolis. Sam Bradford was never really a great quarterback in the NFL at all. However, even an average quarterback in Sam Bradford got a first and a fourth out of a desperate Minnesota team, and there are no shortages of desperate football teams right now looking for a quarterback. I'll get into all the teams later that very well could be bidding on Matt Stafford. So looking at that trade, Stafford is better than Sam Bradford. I think everybody can agree on that. And Sam Bradford, on short notice, got a 2017 first-round pick and a fourth-round pick from the Minnesota Vikings. So that's kind of where I started my base value at. Then I went back to the last big quarterback trade before him, and that was Carson Palmer in 2013. Now, when Carson Palmer was traded, and the team that acquired him gave up a first-round pick along with a second-round pick. Whether you want to say Matthew Stafford is better or worse than Carson Palmer, that is up for debate, and there are a lot of debates, and I'm sure there will be something in the comments saying, oh, he's better, no, he's not. In my opinion, he is better. He's more talented. He has more arm talent and can do more for your franchise. But again, I'll leave that up to discussion. I'll leave that up to debate. Roughly, I would say they should have equivalent value. Roughly, I would say they should have very similar values when it comes to the trade market. Now, the other quarterback I looked at, and one of the quarterbacks that was mentioned in our Lions talk a couple of days ago, was Jay Cutler, who went for 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, plus a player. Now, I believe that Stafford is better than Jay Cutler. I believe he's a better leader. I believe he's just a better quarterback. Obviously, I just think Matt Stafford is better than all three of these quarterbacks. Some of that you could debate yes or no whether or not they are, but I would say Matt Stafford, at the very least, for even his most critical haters, those guys would have to say Matt Stafford is at least on a very similar playing field, if not above where those three quarterbacks were when they were traded. Now, Matt Stafford to me is an above average quarterback. Matt Stafford to me is a top 10 quarterback. I think he plays at a top 10 level for a lot. I think he's been at a top 10 level for a lot of his career, and I believe last year was no exception. A lot of people think he's not quite there, so I think a fair range to quiet the argument would say about 12. I think 12 to 10 is a very reasonable margin to consider for Matt Stafford as far as where he ranks among quarterbacks, which is still above average, if not a top 10 quarterback. So if all of these average quarterbacks, right? Because I would say Sam Bradford was average, I would say Carson Palmer was above average, and I would say Jay Cutler was above average when he was traded for. Those three quarterbacks are, in my opinion, not as good as Matt Stafford, but all of those quarterbacks got at least one first-round pick and more compensation on top of that. So where does that leave Matt Stafford? Well, in my opinion, as I said, I believe Matt Stafford is a top 10 quarterback. A lot of teams would be dying to get Matt Stafford on their football team, and a lot of NFL franchises would likely be willing to give up quite a bit for Matt Stafford. And what I saw based on past trades, what I saw based on how I view Matt Stafford as a quarterback compared to the rest of the NFL and compared to this draft class, I would say a fair value for Matt Stafford is a first-round pick, a third-round pick, and then maybe a late-round pick or a depth player. So maybe a backup player, maybe a depth guy in there somewhere, or a sixth or seventh-round pick to recuperate that from our Everson Griffin trade. I think those three picks or those two picks in a player are very fair value for Matt Stafford. He's got some good years left, even dealing with 3 injuries at the end of the season. You still saw Matt Stafford throw an incredible football. You still saw him put it in tight windows, still saw him make some very nice, very accurate throws deep down the field. And if you're a team that's looking for a quarterback, you would be hard-pressed to find a quarterback better than Matt Stafford that you can get right away with experience, being a veteran quarterback, going through a lot of different offensive systems, being a talented quarterback, and having a quarterback that still has a couple of nice years left on him before he starts to slow down. So with that being the case, I think a first, a third, and maybe a sixth or seventh is fair value for Matt Stafford. But with all the teams looking for a quarterback, I believe that the price could go up even farther than that. Now, if you look at all the teams that need a quarterback in this draft class, there are quite a few to look for. You start with Carolina, then you have Denver, Dallas, New York, San Francisco, New England, Washington, Chicago, Indianapolis, and New Orleans. All are looking for a quarterback, right? Drew Brees is likely retiring. You have, Phillip Rivers is retiring. Chicago's a mess at quarterback. I don't know what Alex Smith is looking like, but, you could still upgrade over him if he is even going to be back. The Patriots are looking for a new quarterback. Cam Newton wasn't what they thought. Jimmy Garoppolo is way overpaid and way too expensive. They could be looking for a quarterback. The New York Giants are sitting behind the Detroit Lions, likely not going to get one of the top 4 quarterbacks, so they could consider upgrading over Danny Dimes. You have Dallas, who was dealing with that whole Dak Prescott situation and who had rumors about wanting Stafford earlier in this season. You have, Denver, who's trying to look to upgrade and get a veteran presence over Drew Lock. You have Carolina, who's looking to get a more veteran presence and a better quarterback to upgrade over Teddy Bridgewater. So there are a lot of really good teams out there looking for quarterbacks. I'd say the top candidates are probably Washington, Indianapolis, New Orleans, and New England. Those are probably the top 4. I think Denver's a good place as well that he could end up. And if you look at all of these teams, most, if not all of them, will miss out on the big 4 quarterbacks, right? You think of this draft class, you think Lawrence, Fields, Wilson, Lance. Those are the big 4 quarterbacks in this draft class. Those will all be gone by pick 7. Jacksonville will take a quarterback. New York will definitely take a quarterback. New York will likely take a quarterback. Atlanta will likely take a quarterback, and we have to take a quarterback. So the big 4, no matter what order they go in, will likely be gone by time of the 8th pick, which is Carolina. So all of these teams will be interested in trading for Matt Stafford, or most of these teams will be interested in trading for Matt Stafford or Deshaun Watson, whichever one gets dealt first. So all of these teams need a quarterback. All of them are struggling at unhealthy quarterback situation, or just had their franchise quarterback retire, or just had their starter retire in the case of Phillip Rivers, or just straight up don't have a good enough quarterback to really compete, even if the rest of the roster is completely viable and very good and good enough to win a Super Bowl. A lot of teams that I just mentioned are really just missing a quarterback at this point. New Orleans is just missing a quarterback. Indianapolis just missing a quarterback. Chicago just missing a quarterback. Washington missing their quarterback. New England obviously lost Tom Brady, was not really the same. If they get Matt Stafford, you likely see New England back up at the top of the AFC. A lot of teams are looking for Matt Stafford. A lot of teams are looking for a guy with veteran experience, a guy with all the arm talent in the world, a veteran, a guy that can pick up on systems very well, a leader. Matt Stafford is that guy, and a lot of teams are going to be interested in Matt Stafford when we talk about dealing him out to a different organization, and that will likely drive the price up. If the Lions, they came out and said they want at least a first-round pick for Matt Stafford, they're likely going to get more because they're going to have New Orleans and Indy and Washington and New England and maybe San Francisco and maybe New York and probably Denver and even Dallas. All of these teams are going to be bidding on Matt Stafford, and the Lions can just raise the price and raise the price and raise the price until somebody finally bites. And if the Lions can get more than that first, third, and a late round pick out of Matt Stafford, I would consider that trade a success. I would consider that trade a valuable upgrade over Matt Stafford, because as much as I love Matt Stafford, if we're getting more than fair value for him, that is a good trade and that is a good move by our new general manager in Brad Holmes. So I think the Lions can get incredible value out of Matt Stafford because of the bidding war that might ensue over our quarterback. As I said, none of those quarterbacks or none of those teams are going to get one of the big four rookies, so all of them are going to be looking for a veteran quarterback to take them over the top. Matt Stafford is that guy that everybody will be looking for. So with all these teams bidding on Matt Stafford, with all of this interest and all these teams interested in Matt Stafford, it seems more than likely that the Lions can drive the price up and they can get even more value out of Matt Stafford than maybe is market value and maybe seems fair to the rest of the NFL. Now, with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Obviously, Matt Stafford hasn't been traded yet. Knowing my luck, by the time this video is exporting, Matt Stafford will be traded for a third and a fifth round pick. But, that's a problem for another day. So with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. What do you guys think about Matt Stafford's trade value? Do you think I hit the nail on the head? Do you think he's worth a first, third, and a late round pick? Do you agree with some other people saying he's not quite that valuable? Or do you think he's even more valuable than that? Let me know that down in the comments below. I'd be very interested to see where you guys stand with that. With all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching the video, and I will see you all tomorrow with more Lions content. Thank you all for watching. Bye, guys.